she saw them put the paddles on me. But then as I was going up, she told me I don't remember a thing about this, but she told me I was making jokes. And the guys told her he's going to make it. Welcome back to Fishing Without Bait, a lifetime without definitive expectations, where we are going to continue our conversation with our lively and entertaining guest, the clairvoyant medium Santina Grace.
Yeah, I mean, I learned a long time ago that it's none of my business what other people think of me. And I've kept that.
That's a Buddhist concept.
Yeah.
So our locus of control is like placing a hula hoop over ourselves. And whatever is inside that hula hoop at your feet, that's your locus of control.
Right. I don't know. For me, I don't even like to think about control. I like to think about the concept of randomness. And this goes with impermanence. Like, for me, it's like you just ride a wave. It's like surfing. That's what life is. Things are going to come at you, and you have to just flow with them. Don't resist. And for so many, I don't know, a lot of people have been talking to me lately about, oh, I feel so tired all the time. I'm always feeling depleted. And then I had some other people talking to me about all these solar flares that we're experiencing and all of these, we're getting to see the aurora borealis down here in this part of the world. And, I think we are connected to celestial events. I do think that, we've got a full moon tonight, and we all feel, I always feel supercharged and energized with the moon. We're mostly made of water. The tides rise, our energy rises. So I don't know. I'm kind of in that space of seize the moment whenever you kind of feel you have more energy and you're capable of doing more, and really be mindful and thoughtful about what do I want to bring into my life? What do I want to create right now? And what do I want to kind of let go of and leave in the past with me? It's served me. It's not that it's bad. It's that I just don't need to cling to it anymore. Yeah.
Well, that's a sense of attachment that we walk through life so overburdened by all the things that we're carrying. And it used to be a myth that a full moon causes some increase in mental health issues.
Like loonies.
I, as a therapist, will tell you that is true.
Yeah, a lot of people that I know that work in the health field will say that they know when it's a full moon because of the people who are coming into the ER. I mean, I just think it's a consequence of everybody has more energy and they don't know what to do with it.
So would you explain again to the folks who may not, and shame on you if you haven't listened to these episodes before, about what you try to help people do, mm-hmm. what a reading consists of?
Yeah, so most of my readings begin the same, but they're never, ever an exact duplicate, even if I were to read the same person again, because every person is experiencing something different in a different moment of their life. So every reading is different. But I almost exclusively always start by reading someone's energy field, their aura. And I can actually, from the time I was a little kid, I saw spirit, I could see people's energy, and I understood what the different, I deciphered for myself what colors in people's energy field were for me. And so it helped me to understand what's going on with them mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. And so I always start my reading connection by looking at their energy field and basically saying, what are you about right now? What's happening with you mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically? And from that point is where I usually go down a rabbit hole of, and I always make the intention that I bring through anything that the person needs to serve them in this moment right now. And I always bring through the intention that anything that is brought through is something that they can handle and move through.
No, that's an interesting thought, something that a person can handle.
Yeah, because I think sometimes there is energy that I can connect in with personally that I know I could connect and know, but it's a question of what would this person do with that energy? You know, like I've talked to you in the past of I've gotten forewarnings when certain relatives were going to be passing, but that was something that I knew that I could handle. And I've even had the experience where I've had people come to me asking me if I could help them to know when they would be passing. And I only get the information if I know it's something that's helpful. And in that one moment, I did get information for this individual. And I did say to this person, they're telling me, they showed me the calendar and it's 2 weeks. And not everybody can handle being told that their life will end in 2 weeks, but this person could, and they chose to look at it as a present and as a gift and got all of their affairs in order and could pass with peace. And in the end, that's ultimately all we ever really want, is to pass with peace, right?
Well, my goal in life is to be covered in tattoos and die sober.
That's a great goal. And I'm sure you're going to achieve it. I'm
Well,
positive.
I'm going to set my intention to do that. So, and again, for those of you who don't know Santina, she's a clairvoyant medium, and people come to her not only to seek answers, but to perhaps connect with themselves in a way that only you can do. So, give us a typical call. Give us a typical request.
I mean, there's no such thing really as a
Right.
typical request, but it could range from, a grieving parent who needs to have some kind of an understanding of the final moments of their child's life. Um, I've worked with a lot of parents of children that have um, passed on due to substance abuse, and so I've had to walk through that and experience that. I've had to read people who've been victims of violent crimes, and I used to be really afraid to read that type of stuff, but what I find is, again, like I said, I always put the intention of we're going to, whatever the person needs. And a lot of times, whenever I am connecting with people who've passed on through violence, the interesting thing that I'll see is the experience of what it was for them to leave their physical form. And I'll see that peaceful aspect of it, even though the way that they're leaving this world might not be peaceful. I see their soul, their spirit, their energy um, kind of be reunited and be in a peaceful space, even in the midst of what would seemingly be terror. And that's why I feel that I have that viewpoint of there is no such thing as evil and goodness in this world. It simply is. And that from evil goodness can come. And also, I hate to say this, but from goodness evil can come too. You can take the best of intentions and twist them. So it's a concept that not many people really like to talk about or look at a lot, of how you can take something that seemingly looks great and it just could rot.
Mm.
So,
How do you handle situations where people want to come to you and they desperately want to know, they want to be reassured that there's another side?
yeah. So I've had people come to me as complete and total skeptics and kind of say, this is all mentalist, trick of the mind type stuff. And I'm like, I don't, my, back to the whole, it's none of my business what people think of me. It's the same feeling I have about, I don't feel the need to prove myself to anyone. If you're not going to believe in another existence, I'm not going to mess with that. That's your belief system. It's the whole feeling of what I was saying before of like, we need to just be tolerant of each other's viewpoints. And, um, and so, yeah, I don't really have a stake in that claim, but then I'll go on to give a person who is a skeptic a reading and they'll have the stone face. And I'll even say, don't say a word to me. I'll just read you and bring through what I can. And I'll see this little twinge in the chin that then breaks up and I see tears coming down the face, and it's just like I've just seen stoned face, really hardened people crumble because I don't know what I connect into. It's meant for people to feel a part of something. And I can feel that whether they mentally understand that concept, they feel it. They feel a connection to something greater than themselves. And to me, if that's all that they experience, job done for me.
Oh, that's a
Yeah.
wonderful, because I do get some people who have a morbid fear of death, and they desperately want some type of assurance there's something to cross over to.
Mhm. Yeah.
How do you deal with that?
And honestly, everybody has different experiences of what they cross over to, right? Um, I've even had people cross over into nothingness, into darkness, because there is a moment of nothingness and darkness sometimes in some experiences. But typically, there's always something else. There's always a feeling once you get past a certain nothingness, there's a feeling of somethingness. There's a feeling of connection to I'm part of something greater, even if that's the vastness of a void. Um, so, I, to me, I don't know if I'm going to totally ever ease someone's fear. That's something that they have to overcome themselves. But what I can tell them is all the different variations of what I've experienced and what I've seen through connecting with um, individuals in spirit who've explained to me what their experiences were. And everybody's vary. Just as we all have different fingerprints and different energy and different experiences, it's every person has a unique individual experience when they pass. At least from what I've connected to.
I think just simply your experience with connecting with other people who have passed would prove to someone that there is something to cross over to.
Yeah. Sometimes. But there's gonna still be the people who think it's baloney.
And that's fine.
And that's okay for me.
That
I'm like, okay.
I always tell people, one of the first things I tell people when they come to visit me is, you're allowed to think and feel however you think
100%.
and feel. I'm not here to persuade you about anything.
Right.
I don't have an agenda.
No, I don't. Yep. I am right on the same um, vibration as what you are. It is really not any of my business what people want to subscribe to.
So, how would you explain the concept of spirituality in your terms?
So, the way that I like to talk about spirituality, I like to think of it as is basically the compass or the northern light or however you want to call it. It's the guidepost. It's what is the thing that draws you to your own feeling of inner truth. And that can come in any kind of form that, it can come through being out in nature and seeing a bird. It can come through the Bible. It can come through whatever faith you feel is your spirituality. But for me, it's more about um, that feeling of connection, that feeling of connectedness, that feeling of being just a tiny little piece of a larger picture.
The last time we'd gotten together was not too terribly long after I had these experiences about the veil getting quite thin between me and the other side.
Mm-hmm.
And I explained to you that I didn't see any of these light flashing or the thing passing before my eyes. And you explained this to me, but I'd like for you to explain it again to me and to other people. You talk about reaching a choice point.
Yeah. Yeah, and a lot of times that's what the whole point of meditation was really meant to be, is to get you okay with being in a place of mindlessness where you really aren't thinking about or experiencing or doing anything. You just are. You're just being. Because that's, to me, that's what you have to have as a muscle memory when you reach a point that's a choice point. So for me, when I tune in and I connect into what it was for you to go through that space where you were not quite alive, but not quite yet dead, even though clinically and physically they would pronounce you as that. I can read energetically, no, you really had not completely tethered from the physical reality. So what you entered into was the vastness of the void. To me, I feel like that is where all of creation starts. It's that, and a lot of people think darkness and vastness and void, negative, bad, whatever. It's not. It's just that to me is the place of all the possibility. You were in a space of like all the possibility is there. But I can also connect to the place because you're a meditator and because you're comfortable with a place of void, that's what you were able to experience. And I can feel even in that moment of like being in the vastness and in the void, there was nothingness and there was, I dare I say it, I do feel peace. And did you have an experience of peace in that moment or just
I had a great sense of acceptance. I wasn't afraid at all.
right? And for me, acceptance and peace feel like one and the same. But yeah, I don't know. I remember being a little kid and I remember the first time I've ever astrally projected out of my physical body and feeling like, am I going to die now? Is this me leaving my body? I don't think I want to do this right now. I'd like to go back and then going right back in. So I don't know. We all have kind of our own little experiences. Now, I've never gone to been in a space where I was pronounced clinically dead or something like that. But I guess that's the closest I could say in this lifetime. I've experienced it myself, but I've experienced it through others.
Well, I don't remember much of anything about it, but after I went into whatever is unconsciousness state, whatever that means, uh, a woman there who does Reiki, she does all types of energy medicine. It's a very wonderful, very, very lovely person. Her name's Angie Miller. She wouldn't mind me saying that. But she saw them put the paddles on me. But then as I was going up, she told me I don't remember a thing about this, but she told me I was making jokes. And the guys told her he's going to make it.
Wow, that's something
Yeah.
else. Yeah, I just don't feel like you fully left your connection. You were still connected.
Oh,
Yeah.
I had to have some type of connection.
Yeah, if you were telling jokes, my goodness. Um, yeah, so that's what it feels like to me. And everybody's got a different concept. Like whatever you believe. One of the coolest things that I've gotten to actually experience was the passing of my grandparents. And they were strict Catholics. I never would have ever, and I never in my life did tell them I could see spirit and that it's just something I've had since I was born. Just because I felt like they wouldn't understand, and there were certain things that just felt like, oh, I don't know what that is. But in both of their deathbeds, they were greeted by the person in our family who had passed right before them, and they were able to explain to them what happens with me and what I'm about. And it was a beautiful thing to have both of my relatives come to me and say, "Hey, I talked to this person who had just recently died, and they told me that you talked to them and I can still be in communication with you." And I was like, "Yep." And it was such a relief for me. It was so wonderful to not think about, "Oh, I never got a chance to do that." There was one of my relatives who did pass without knowing what what I did, but when he passed, I connected with him in spirit and I was able he actually came with me on a couple times whenever I would read for people, and I could hear him almost like in the gallery going, "Huh, I didn't know she could do this." I mean, I could hear it was his personality exactly. And he was the relative that I was warned about that he would be passing. And I knew that about a year. I didn't know how long. They didn't tell me when. Because for me, it wouldn't have been serving me to know when. It just was enough to know that it was coming soon. And it was just a really beautiful way that he passed in that. It was a couple days before my birthday. The very last thing he did was write me out a birthday card, and I got to open that and then had a visitation with him when I went to sleep, where I knew it was a dream visitation. I knew that I was connecting with him in spirit. And the really cool thing about impermanence that we were talking about, this connects with that. He talked about, I said, "Oh, I'm so glad I got to thank you for my birthday card and I got to hug him."
Oh,
And I said, "How can I physically hug you? You're not physical anymore." And he goes, "I don't know, honey. I just got here." I mean, this is 100% his personality. And then I heard him, somebody was calling him, but I couldn't hear them. And he said, "I have to go to the place where they erase all the things that I had to do on my to-do list." And I went, "There's a place like that?"
Boy.
I was like, "That's amazing," because think about how frustrated we would all be. You know what I mean? And I was like, whew, that's a load off. That made me feel better about passing.
So I've had some individuals in my life who practiced Wicca. They were Wiccans, and there's birth doulas, but I've had a few people who described themselves as death doulas that tried to help, that they assisted people to pass.
Yeah, and I think if you're going to help people come into physical form, why not help them go out? Absolutely. To me, that doesn't seem like a strange and unusual concept. It seems very natural. And, if you think about it, I think being born is way more of a harsh experience than passing. Yeah.
Oh, I'm well aware of people who have experienced birth trauma.
Yeah. Because, you're in this protective, warm, nurturing, nobody's really messing with you space. So, here you are, figure it out. I mean, that's really what it is. And for me, whenever I've seen people pass, even without a doula, but I think to me, death doulas are more for the family, for the folks that are left behind, just as birth doulas are more for the mother birthing the baby. Um, but for me, I think when you're passing, I've seen it done where it's very a rare thing when you are not met by others who you know in spirit or who you connect with. Or if you have no people to connect with, there will be an ascended master. There will be someone. And that's for me why it was just not your time. Your people hadn't even come. They just knew. They're like, we'll catch them next time.
Catch you on the flip-flop.
Well, they knew it wasn't your... that to me is what it felt like.
Well, once again, this has been an entirely delightful conversation, and I'm anticipating further in the future. So would you let our viewers, our guests, know how they could possibly contact you or the classes that you have to offer, Santina?
Yeah, sure. I do teach monthly development classes at a place called the Millville House, and they have a presence on Facebook. So you can find, if you just search for the Millville House, that's once a month I do that. And then for private readings, you can send me an email to santinagrace@gmail.com if that feels like something that you're interested in and wanting to explore. I really just allow my spirit guides, which we've talked about in the past. My spirit guides very much manage kind of the readings that I do. So if you're feeling compelled, trust it. That's what I always tell people.
Well, usually I tell guests not to be a stranger, but in your case, I don't think that's going to happen.
Oh, no. You can't get rid of me.
Well, Santina, and at the end of every podcast, what we like to do is offer a prescription that really can be filled anywhere, and that's fruits, nuts, and vegetables. Unplug your television and take up fishing. And for a truly mindful experience, we suggest that you fish without bait. We urge you to do a kindness for another and do a kindness for yourself, to forgive yourself and to forgive another. And if we're all not God's creatures, then none of us are. Please be good to yourself today and every day. Till all are free, none are free. Namaste.
Please check out our website at fishingwithoutbait.com, where you can listen to the show, comment on our discussions, and find out where you can subscribe to our podcast. If you're interested in flying the colors of fishing without bait. Click the shop icon on our website. We have clothing, mugs, cell phone cases, and so much more. Show the world that you fish without bait. This show is a member of the Sorgatron Media Podcast Network. Find out more at sorgatronmedia.com.